Good morning, students. Here, some of our students wants to rehearse the first lesson again. Okay, let us do it in another way. Like the first lesson is laws of motion. I want all the students to listen it the lesson carefully. If you are well versed in the first lesson, then it will be easy for you to learn physics in 10th standard because nearly 25 marks out of 70 is asked from the physics. So I want you all to be careful and attentive in these classes. Let us understand the concept of force and motion. There are three types of motions. First one is linear motion, second one is circular motion, and third one is oscillatory motion. One. First of all, see about the linear motion. Actually, I want to give one example or a model video for you about this linear motion. I think you can see the picture of a person who is running in a boat and then diving or jumping to a platform. See, this kind of motion is a running motion, is a linear motion. Circular motion. You all know that we used to see the clock every day. Yeah, it's now time 10:10 and it's running out in the clockwise direction. That means for a 360 degree. This kind of motion is particularly named as circular motion. The third one is oscillatory motion. I think you all interested to swing in this and very oftenly use this in your play periods. Okay. Now, motions are in terms of three things. One is displacement, another one is velocity, and the third one is acceleration. Now, there comes a question. Let us investigate about the cause of motion. When a body is at rest, starts to moving, what causes the body to move in the direction or a area? This is the question here. Similarly, when a moving body or object comes to rest, what brings it to rest is the next question. Sometimes the moving body change its direction. What makes that body to change its direction? The answer is force. A body needs a push or a pull to move or bring to rest or change its velocity. Here, push or pull is called as velocity. So, force is a push or pull upon an object resulting from the object's interaction with another object. Whenever there is an interaction between two objects, there is a force upon each of the objects. I think you all know about when you hit with your friend in a play period, you will see a force from that person upon your body. Sir Isaac Newton proposed three laws to define the forces. Before him, let us look what are the perceptions formulated before Newton's laws. Mechanics, which is a branch of physics that deals with the effect of force on bodies. Okay. These mechanics have been divided into two types. One is statistics and another one is dynamics. And what do you mean by statics? It deals with the body which are at rest under the action of forces. See, I have given a picture of a car which is moving in a hill mountain or which is parked in a hill mountain. It has been in a stable position or in a rest position, but it has an action of force. If the brake has been removed or it has been moved, it can be moved downwards to the One is dynamics. What do you mean by dynamics? Dynamics is the study of moving bodies under the action of forces, and dynamics is further divided as kinematics and kinetics. See, I given a example for a dynamics, that is merry-go-round. It's a good example for dynamics, and that for a kinematics, let me give a good example. Moving of a train is a good example for a kinematic, that is, it deals with the motion of bodies, the train, without considering the cause of motion. It has been moving all around here. Second one is kinetics. It deals with the motion of bodies considering the cause of motion. Now you can see the example picture here. A bow and arrow. This is a good example for kinetics. Let's see the force and motion together. Let me introduce a person. You may know his name. He is Aristotle, a great philosopher, a great person who stated that a moving body naturally comes to rest without any external influence of the force. Such motions are termed as natural motion. He also conveyed that usually the bodies are at rest. That was their natural state, and it was called as force independent. Second one, force dependent. If a body moves from its natural state, that is due to push or pull, that is called a violent motion or a force dependent. He also proposed that when two different masses are dropped from the height, the heavier body falls faster than the lighter one. Now let me introduce another person. He is also a greatest scientist, Galileo Galilei. He proposed that natural state of earthly bodies are state of rest or state of uniform motion. Second one is a body will remain in its state of rest still it was forced by an external force applied on it. Third one is when a force is applied on bodies, they resist any change in their state. This property of bodies is called inertia. When dropped from a height in vacuum, bodies of different size, shape, mass falls at the same rate and reach the ground at the same time. All the four things have been said to us by Galileo. Okay, let me finish today's class, but let us wait for the class probably 2 days after. Hello students, let us see the third part of this lesson, laws of motion. I hope you all are well versed in the last two chapters. The third chapter is now in this lesson. Students, today let us learn about the Newton's second law of motion. Last class I taught you about the first law of motion and their applications. Now let's move to the second law of motion. According to this law, the force acting on a body is directly proportional to the rate of change of linear momentum of the body, and the change in momentum takes place in the direction of the force. Actually, this law helps to measure the amount of force, so it is also called as law of force. Let us have some illustrations. See, I have introduced a golf hitting short film. This is to support you about this law. Let me explain this with some other terms. Where m is the mass of a moving body. Here the moving body is this. This is the moving body. Then u is the initial speed of the body. Actually, initially the body does not have any speed because it was in rest position. Then v is the velocity of the body. The body receive a force from that golf stick and it moves to a distance and it has the velocity. T is the time interval of the body. That means between the rest and the movement or the displacement there is a time interval, and that time interval is referred with T. F is the unbalanced external force. This external force was given by this person. Now, what is the initial momentum of the body? That means that Pi, as you know, in the last class I told about you the momentum P is equal to m into v. Here the initial momentum is u, so we use the initial momentum Pi, initial is equal to mu. Then the final momentum of the body Pf, final, is equal to m into v. Here v refers to the velocity of the body. Therefore, change in momentum, that is del P, is equal to Pf minus Pi. That means the final minus the initial is equal to mv minus mu. By Newton's second law of motion, F, that means the force, is directly proportional to the change of momentum. F proportional in change momentum with respect to the time, that is F is proportional to mv minus mu. Here m is the mass of the body and v is the final velocity and u is the initial velocity with respect to the time. See, if we have anything with the directly proportional, then we have to add some constant to equal the equation. Now we here add k as a constant. And what is that k? K is the proportionality constant which is equal to 1, and k is equal to 1 in all system of units. Hence, F is equal to mv minus mu. Here we take m as a common from this equation. We take m as a common, so equate this and m v minus u into t. Since acceleration equal to change in velocity per time, therefore a is equal to v minus u per time. We have F is equal to m into a, because instead of this values, that is v minus u into t, we put the acceleration a here. So F is equal to m into a, and which is force is equal to mass into acceleration. SI unit of force is Newton, and in GPS system we used to say it as dyne. Let us see some 2 mark important questions here in this lesson, in this third part. First one is 1 Newton N. The amount of force required for a body of mass 1 kg produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square, or 1 ms minus 2. 1 Newton is equal to 1 kilogram per second square, or 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. This dyne is in CGS system that you all know in the your 9th standard or in 8th standard. And now let me explain about this dyne. See, Newton is referred in SI system and dyne is referred in CGS system. The amount of force required for a body of mass 1 gram produces an acceleration of 1 centimeter minus 2, or 1 Newton is equal to 1 gram cms minus 2. Then unit force. What do you mean by this unit force? The amount of force required for a body to produce an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a body of mass 1 kg is called as unit force. Now let's move to the gravitational unit of force. 1 kgf, that is kilogram force, is equal to 1 kg into 9.8 meter per second square, that is 9.8 n Newton, and 1 gf is equal to 1 g into 980 centimeter minus 2, or 980 dyne. Let's see some other important things in this lesson. Very important 2-mark question is impulse. A large force acting for a very short interval of time is called impulsive force. Can you get the point? A large force acting for a very short interval of time is called impulsive force. Then what do you mean by impulse? When a force F acts on a body for a period of time t, that means the required period, then the product of force and time is known as impulse, and the impulse is denoted by J. We have impulse J is equal to force into time, and by Newton's second law, F is equal to del P divided by T. Here del refers to change, and del P is equal to F into T, and therefore if you substitute all these things in the value of del P in equation, this is a impulse J is equal to F into T, then J is equal to del P. And what is the unit of this impulse? Its unit is kilogram meter per second minus 1, or Newton seconds. See, change in momentum can be achieved in 2 ways. What are the ways? They are a large force acting for a short period of time, like tsunami, or some other force like storm. Then second one is a smaller force acting for a longer period of time. We can have this as a small breeze. Next, examples for impulsive forces. Automobiles are fitted with springs and shock absorbers to reduce jerks while moving on uneven roads. It's very important to have a shock absorber in each and every 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler and everything. Okay. Then second example is in cricket, a fielder pulls back his hand while catching the ball. He experiences a smaller force for a longer interval of time to catch the ball, resulting in a lesser impulse on his hand. This you all experienced, I think. Okay. So let's move to the next part of this lesson. It's Newton's third law of motion. Many of us know about this third law of motion. Is it? Let me explain what is that. Newton's third law states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. They always act on two different bodies. And what are the examples for this? First example is when birds fly, they push the air downwards with their wings. That is the action. And the air pushes the birds upward is called the reaction. Second example is when a person swims, he pushes the water using the hands backward. This is action. And the water pushes the swimmer in the forward direction is the reaction. Third one is when you fire a bullet, the gun recoils backward and the bullet is moving forward is action. And the gun equalizes the forward action by moving backward is the reaction here. I think all these three GIF files will show you the examples clear and neatly. See students, now we are moving into the important 5-mark question in this lesson. Principle of conservation of linear momentum. Very important question. Last year also they usually asked in each and every examinations. There is no change in linear momentum of a system of bodies as long as no net external force acts on it. Thus mean this shows that if there is no external force, there is no change in linear momentum of a system of bodies. See, usually all the teachers of 10th standard and 12th standard support you and we force you to study because the exam in the examination time you cannot read or you cannot study all the lessons by the examination time. So that's why we are forcing you to learn the lessons by day. But most of the students nowadays are not interested in having their doing their homeworks and having their lesson path. Maybe only 20 or 25% of this year 10th standard students are interested in the examinations. I want you to remember one thing. You are going to write the examination in 2021 March or April. That's true. That's going to be happen. So you have to get ready for the examinations even now itself. You have time from now. Let's get into the lesson. Let's see using the principle of conservation momentum, and we can prove this principle of conservation of momentum using this example one. I think you all can see two balls. One is M1, that is mass of first ball A is M1 and the mass of the second ball B is M2. Usually the first ball A have an initial velocity U1 and the second ball have the initial velocity U2. They travel and they collide with each other with the force of A and the force of B. At last they move in a straight line with the force velocity of V1 and for the ball A and V2 for the ball B. I have given a terms for this reference. Force on body B due to A. This is the force on a body B due to A. FB is equal to M2 V2 minus U2 divided by T, and the force on the body A due to B. This is an example for about this collision. Now FA is equal to M1 V1 minus U1 divided by T. By Newton's third law of motion, we can define Action is equal to reaction force. That is FA is equal to minus FB. We can put all the two things in the left and right side. Now M1 V1 minus U1 divided by T is equal to minus M2 V2 minus U2 divided by T. You can arrange the M1 V1 plus M2 V2 to the one side and M1 U1 plus M2 U2 to the other right hand side. See, we are rearranging the equation as velocity to the left side and the initial velocity in the right side. The above equation confirms in the absence of an external force, the algebraic sum of the momentum after collision is numerically equal to the algebraic sum of the momentum before collision. You can see the algebraic sum of the momentum after collision. This M1 V1 plus M2 V2 is after collision and M1 U1 plus M2 U2 is the algebraic sum of momentum before collision. Thank you students. Let me finish this part today and only one part left for you in this first lesson. After that I am going to conduct a test. So be ready for the test. Probably you will have the test by this week. Thank you. Hello students. Last class I have received a lot of response from you. The phone calls and the WhatsApp messages had driven me to the second part. Okay, I am happy, but I have gave all the notes for you up to the lesson 2. I think you all have it in your hand. So take Xerox copies and go through the one word, 2 mark and 5 mark answers, right? Okay, let us get into the laws of motion and the second part. See, I want to explain you some with some examples about this inertia. While traveling in a bus, when a sudden brake is applied, the upper part of our body leans in the forward direction. Similarly, when the vehicle suddenly moves forward from rest, we lean backward. This is because our body would like to continue to be in its state of rest or state of motion, which is called as inertia. Let me give the explanation for the inertia. The inherent property of a body resists any change in its state of rest or the state of uniform motion unless it is influenced by an external force is known as inertia. See, the inertia has been divided into 3 types. What are the types? Inertia at rest, inertia at motion and inertia at direction. First, let us move to the inertia at rest. Resistance of a body to change its state of rest is called inertia at rest. So, what do you mean by resistance? The resistance is the power to oppose the external force. Second one is inertia at motion. Resistance of a body to change its state of motion. If the body is in move, it have to oppose the force to change its state, or if the body is at rest, it have to oppose the force to change its state. That means the resistance of a body to change its state of motion. Third one is inertia at direction. Resistance of a body to change its direction of motion. Let me give some examples for this three types. First one is inertia at rest. The example is when you vigorously shake the branches of a tree, some of the leaves and fruits are detached and they fall down. This is a good example for inertia at rest because all the leaves in the trees are at rest. Second one is inertia at motion. Usually the athlete runs some distance before jumping because it helps them to jump longer and higher. Third one is inertia at direction. When you make a sharp turn while driving a car, you tend to lean sideways. Okay, these are the three examples for inertia. Now let's move into the next part, which is linear momentum. The linear momentum measures the impact of a force on a body. That means already in inertia we saw about the impact or resistance of the motion which has been made in the body. Here the linear momentum means measures the impact of a force on a body. That means the product of mass and velocity of a moving body gives the magnitude of linear momentum. It acts in the direction of the velocity of the object. The linear momentum is a vector quantity and it has both magnitude and direction. And linear momentum is equal to mass into velocity. That means the linear momentum is applied to a body with mass and it has been forced by a velocity, and linear momentum is denoted by P, which is equal to m into v. M represents the mass and v represents the velocity. Okay, let's see what is the unit of momentum, because this is a one word question, so you have to take very seriously. Unit of momentum is equal to kgms minus 1. Now Newton's laws of motion. Last class also we come across that, but we left for the next things. Let us move to the Newton's laws of motion. The first law of Newton. This law states that every body continues to be in its state of rest or state of uniform motion along a straight line unless it is acted upon by some external force. Okay, this is very important law. You have to get memorize all these things and you have to understand. Okay, all these are because of force. Let us move into the force. Force is an external effort in the form of push or pull, which produces or tries to produce the motion of a static body. That means a body, when even it is at rest, the force push or pull the body to move to a certain distance. That means here the displacement is required by the body. Then second one is stops. The force stops or tries to stop a moving body. The force can stop. Okay, the force can stop or it can tries to stop a moving body. Force changes or tries to change the direction of motion of a moving body. When you throw a cotton piece or when you throw a bricks from the top of first floor of the building, you are expecting to the cotton or a brick in the same straight line in the ground, but it has been changed due to the air. Last one, force has both magnitude and direction. So force is a vector quantity. I have repeated all these things. So take care of the information about the. What are the types of force? There are two types of forces. One is like parallel forces, another one is unlike parallel forces. What do you mean by this like parallel forces? Two or more forces of equal or unequal magnitude acting along the same direction which are parallel to each other are called like parallel forces. And what do you mean by the unlike parallel forces? If two or more equal forces or unequal forces act along opposite directions which are parallel to each other, then they are called unlike parallel forces. These two like parallel forces and unlike parallel forces are a two mark. Students, let us start the second part of the today's lesson. Laws of motion, and the second part is 2a. There are lot of 2 mark questions in our lesson. Let us first start with the first 2 mark question. Resultant force. When several forces act simultaneously on the same body, then the combined effect of the multiple forces can be represented by a single force. I will give a good example for this. If the 30 number of students present in your class, if you all write an examination, then you will have a individual marks in science. When all the marks of your 30 members students has been combined, we will get the average mark of the 10th standard in the science subject. So this is represented by a single average mark. This is a single force. Here you can consider this as a single force. That means the total 30 number of students marks have been combined and it has been shown as a single mark of a class. The second 2 mark question is balanced force. If the resultant force of all the forces acting on a body is equal to 0, then the body will be in equilibrium. Let me give one example picture. See, there are two boys. They are forcing the board into one direction. Let us have name this boys as one boy name as Shivsundar and another boy as Brightson. See, this is for only an example. Okay, don't take it as personal. Just to identify, both of them have a same sort of force. Therefore, then the body will be in equilibrium. Second one is unbalanced force. If the resultant force is not equal to 0, then it causes the motion of the body due to this unbalanced force. Let us have another picture. This shows the two boys acts in same direction. Let us name this boy as Shafiq and this boy as Joby. Okay, this just an example to remember the concept. Both of them are pushing the object in same direction. So the unbalanced force will be available here. Next one, according to our syllabus, they have combined the parallel forces and parallel unequal forces together, and they define them the both forces with some diagram and some resultant forces. Now let's see, parallel forces are acting in the same direction. As I told in the previous slide, the F1 and F2 acts in same direction. Therefore, the F net, that means the total force, is equal to F1 plus F2. Parallel unequal forces are acting in opposite direction. As the second picture I explained in the last slide, F1 and F2 acts in same direction. Therefore, the F net is equal to F1 minus F2. If F1 is greater than F2 and F net is equal to F2 minus F1, if F2 is greater than F1, F net is directed along the greater force. If the two forces, one maybe F1 or F2, have a greater force, then the box will move in that direction. Parallel equal forces are acting in opposite directions in the same line of action. F1 is equal to F2, F1 and F2. Therefore, the total net force is equal to F1 minus F2. F1 is equal to F2 here, so the F net is equal to 0. Rotating effect of force. Let me show a door for your reference. See, there is a door picture, and in that door I have pointed out the main important thing. Did you notice the position of the handle in this door? Here the position of the handle is here. Okay. Usually it is placed at the edge of the door. Why it is not placed in the middle? Is it possible? Actually, the door can be easily opened or closed when you apply the force at the point far away from the fixed edge. Here, the fixed edge is here. This is the fixed edge. The turning effect of the applied force is more when the distance between the fixed edge and the point of application of force is more. And I will give another example for this rotating effects of force. Now fix one end of the rod to the floor or wall and apply a force at the other end tangentially. The rod will turn about the fixed point, and which is called as the point of rotation. Moment of the force. The rotating or turning effect of a force about a fixed point or fixed axis is called moment of the force about that point, or torque. Here the symbol represents the torque, and it has been called as toe, T-O-E. And the toe is measured by the product of the force, and the perpendicular distance between the fixed points. Let me show a good working example for you. Here the toe is equal to F into D. That means the force into the distance. The torque is a vector quantity, and the unit of torque is Nm, that is Newton meter. Now couple. I know most of you have an idea that if the term couple is referred only for married men and women. Here it also resembles the same features. Let me give the definition for this couple. Two equal and unlike parallel forces applied simultaneously at two distinct points constitute a couple. The line of action of the two forces does not coincide. Let us see some examples for this couple. Turning a tap is the first example. Let me give one example picture. Turning a tap. See, using this hand, this man is turning the tap in another direction, but the tap's head position rotates in another direction. The second example is spinning a top. I know most of the boys usually play this. Okay. And the third one is winding or unwinding a screw. This usually the engineers do this. And this is called wrench. Now, moment of a couple. Rotating effect of a couple is known as moment of a couple. It is measured by the product of any one of the force and the perpendicular distance between the line of action of two forces. Moment of a couple is equal to force into perpendicular distance between the line of action of the forces. Let us denote this as M equal to F into S, and its unit is Newton meter Nm. Let me show some applications of the torque here. First one is gears. I think you all know where the gears are used. The gears are used in most of the vehicles. Gear is a circular wheel with teeth around its rim. Teeth around its rim. It helps to change the speed of rotation. It helps to change the speed of rotation of a wheel by changing the torque and helps to transmit the power to the vehicle. Second one is seesaw. Usually you play with this. If there is a difference in the weight of the person sitting on seesaw, the head position comes closer to the pivot point. Fulcrum will decrease the line of action of the force. This enables the lighter person to lift the heavier person. Third example is steering wheel. A small steering wheel enables you to drive the car easily by transferring a torque to the wheel with less efforts. And the last one, principle of moments. When a number of like or unlike parallel forces act on a rigid body and the body is in equilibrium, then the algebraic sum of moment in the clockwise direction is equal to the algebraic sum of the moments in the anti-clockwise direction. Moment in clockwise direction is equal to moment in anti-clockwise direction. The moment in clockwise direction is equal to the moment in anti-clockwise direction, which is represented by F1 into D1, which is equal to 2 into D2. Now, thank you students. I think we all are interested in this lesson, I want all the students to take care of your studies and let me have the feedback from you, because that's the only support we receive from you, and we request the feedback, and I want you to get the notes earlier and buy the books, because it will help you. We don't have much time to spend. Nearly we are nearing our quarterly examinations period. So try to get your books and try to arrange for your future studies. Thank you. Hello students, let me welcome you for the last portion of the first lesson, laws of motion, and the fourth part of this lesson, and this is going to be the last part for this lesson. The last part is the rocket propulsion. You can see a rocket here. It have a fuel tank and an oxidizer. See, it's have a one propulsion area. Let me explain this rocket propulsion. Actually, the propulsion of a rocket is based on the law of conservation of linear momentum that I explained you in the previous classes. If you are not aware of that, please turn the page of that law of conservation of linear momentum or watch my video. You can identify or understand that very easily. And Newton's third law of motion. The rockets are filled with fuel, either liquid or solid. So in the fuel tank you can have either a liquid or solid. This tank is named as a propellant tank. When the rocket is fired, that means ignited, this fuel is burned and a hot gas is ejected with a high speed from the nozzle. Okay, here the hot gas is ejected from high speed in the nozzle. This region is mentioned as a nozzle region. It produces a huge momentum. That means from this nozzle it produces a huge momentum. You can also see it produces a huge momentum here, and due to that huge momentum, the rocket can jump to the atmosphere very easily. To balance the momentum, and equal and opposite reaction force is produced in the combustion chamber, which makes the rocket projected forward. That means this opposite and equal force produced a combustion in the combustion chamber, which makes the rocket projected forward. While moving to the space, the mass of the rocket gradually decreases until the fuel is completely burnt out. Okay, we have already mentioned that you can fill with fuel of liquid or solid. If there is no external force, that means a breeze or a storm acting on it, the linear momentum of the system is saved. The mass of the rocket decreases with the altitude. There is a gradual increase in velocity of the rocket. Initially it starts move with a very small force, but gradually it was increased. At one stage, this increase in velocity is sufficient to just escape from the gravitational pull of the earth, which velocity is called escape velocity. The velocity which is sufficient to just escape from the gravitational pull of the earth is called the escape velocity. Actually, the escape velocity of the earth is 11.2 km per second. Remember, if you want to throw a ball out of our earth, then you have to throw with a speed of 11.2 km per second. In cricket, the fastest ball by a cricket bowler, Pat Cummins, nowadays is the fastest bowler. He used to throw a ball with 160 kilometer per hour, not by seconds. It's an unimaginable speed. If you want to throw a ball, so you have to throw with this speed of 11.2 kilometer per second. Let's move into the another topic. It's a topic about the gravitation. Newton's universal law of gravitation is an important law that you have to memorize this law throughout your studies. It's very important law, and this law states that every particle of matter in this universe attract every other particle with a force. This force is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the centers of these masses. The direction of the force acts along the line joining the masses. Let me show two masses. First one is M1 and second one is M2. Okay, the M1 have a force of F1 and the M2 have a force of F2. There is a distance between these two forces is R. Now, with respect to the gravitational constant G, we have to multiply the masses of these two bodies and divide by the distance between them. Actually, the force between the masses is always attractive and it does not depend on the medium where they are placed. The next important topic is acceleration due to gravity, and it is mentioned with the symbol small g. See, when you drop a ball in your hand, you can receive the ball at the bottom end because the acceleration of this ball is towards the ground. The gravitational force is the force which receives the ball at the ground. When you throw any object upward, its velocity ceases at a particular height and then it falls down due to the gravitational force of the earth. The acceleration of the body is due to the earth's gravitational force. So it is called as acceleration due to gravitational force of the earth or acceleration due to gravity of the earth. Actually, the velocity of the object keeps changing as it falls down. There is a change in velocity due to the force acting on the object. The acceleration of the body is due to the acceleration of the body which feels a gravitational pull. Then the acceleration due to gravity depends with the letter small g. It has a unit of meter per second. We write it as ms minus 2 suffix. Mean value of this acceleration due to gravity is taken as 9.8 meter per second on the surface of the earth. The word 9.8 meter per second means that velocity of a body during the downward free fall motion varies by 9.8 meter per second for every second. The value of g is not the same at all portions of the earth. Now let's see the relation between small g and capital G. What do you mean by this capital G? Last class I explained you about the gravitational constant. Its denoted as capital G, and this small g, we know it's a acceleration due to gravity. Consider if a body is at rest on the surface of the earth, it is acted upon by the gravitational force of the earth, and the body will have two masses. They are capital M, mass of the earth, and small m, the mass of the body. The radius of the earth is r is equal to 6378 kilometer, and approximately we decide that it is 6400 kilometer. Let us assume the entire mass of the earth is concentrated at the center. That's why we got the radius. Now, by Newton's law of gravitation, the force acting on the body is equal to F is equal to capital G, capital M into small m. That means the mass of the body divided by r square. Here r square is mentioned for the radius of the earth. And on behalf of the Newton's law of gravitation, we used to put the value of radius as r square. From Newton's second law of motion, the force acting on a body is given by the product of its mass and acceleration, which is called as weight. Let us see something about weight in the next slide. Actually, the radius of the body is very less compared with the radius of the earth. That's why we neglect the radius of the object. Now, acceleration of the body is equal to A is equal to G, that is a gravity, and the force F is equal to M into A by Newton's second law of motion. I think you all remember the three laws of Newton. From Newton's second law of motion, we put F is equal to M dot A or M into G. That means F is equal to weight is equal to M into G. Let us bring the equation 1. F is equal to G capital M small m divided by R square, and F is equal to mg, the equation number 2, and comparing the equation we get mg is equal to capital G m small m divided by R square. We compare this m instead of this value. Now we get the result for acceleration due to gravity, and it is small g is equal to gm divided by r square. Then variation of acceleration due to gravity small g. Since g depends on the geometric radius of the earth, small g is directly proportional to 1 by r square. That means the radius of the earth. The values changes from one place to another on the surface of the earth. The geometrical radius of the earth is maximum in the equatorial region, and the geometric radius of the earth is minimum in the polar region. The value of g, small g, is maximum in the polar region and which is minimum at the equatorial region. Then at higher altitude from the surface of the earth, the value of small g reduces. When you move deep into the surface of the earth, the value of g reduces. So remember, when you are in a higher altitude, the surface of the earth, the value of g reduces, and when you are deep into the surface of the earth, the value of g reduces. And the value of g is 0 at the center of the earth. If you want to have a higher acceleration due to gravity, then you have to move into a normal place which is not the polar region or a equatorial region, because the value of G is very much maximum in polar region. Now mass of the earth, that is m. It's very important to know the mass of the earth. Okay, for mass of the earth, capital M, we can get that value from the last equation, that is by rearranging the equation, small g is equal to capital G m divided by r square. The mass of the earth is obtained as follows, that is mass of the earth capital M is equal to small g into r square by g. Actually we substitute this value into this side, left hand side, this r square into this side, and we put the g divided by the g r square, that is g small g r square divided by capital G. We used to have this m in the right hand side. Now substituting the known values, we already know that capital G value is equal, small g values is equal to 9.8 meter per second minus 2, and the radius of the earth is 6400 kilometer, and the gravitational constant value is 6.674 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square kilogram minus 2. And if you calculate the mass of the earth, then you can get 5.972 into 10 to the power 24 kg. This is the mass of the earth. Remember, you may be a 50 or 40 or 30 kilogram person. Compare your weight with the earth. It is very, very small. Mass and weight. What do you mean by mass? Mass is the basic property of a body. Mass of a body is defined as the quantity of matter contained in the body. Okay, so the important term is the quantity of matter. The SI unit of mass is kilogram, kg. And what do you mean by weight? Most of us think that mass and weight are equal. Why we are having this two separate answers? No, it's totally different. Weight is a different thing. Weight of a body is defined as the gravitational force exerted on it due to the Earth's gravity alone. Now, weight is equal to gravitational force. That means mass m into acceleration due to gravity g. Here we know g is equal to acceleration due to gravity of the earth at sea level. That means 9.8 meter per second square. It is a vector quantity and its SI unit is Newton n. Weight of a body at the pole is greater than weight of a body at the equatorial region. The acceleration due to gravity on the surface of the moon is 1.625 meter per second square. Let us see some examples. Okay, if a person whose mass is 60 kg, okay, consider your weight, stands on the surface of the earth, his weight would be 588 Newton. That means weight is equal to mass of the person, small m, that means this 60 into g. You know the value of g. Yeah, if you multiply the value, then you will get the 588 Newton. If the same person goes to a surface of the moon, he would weigh 97.5 Newton, because in the moon we used to have a less g value, acceleration due to gravity value, that is 1.625, but his mass remains the same. Remember, the weight is the only term which changes from here and apart from earth, that means in moon or other space or other planets, the weight changes, but the mass never changes. It remains the same even in the moon and in any other planet. Apparent weight. What do you mean by this apparent weight? Let us consider a man with mass m. Okay, small m. He is traveling in a lift. The actual weight of the person is W is equal to m into g, which is acting vertically downward, sometimes vertically upward. Actually, the reaction force exerted by the lift surface are taken as apparent weight, which is acting vertically upwards. Depending upon the motion of the lift, upwards or downwards, let us see the different possibilities of apparent weight are. Now, students, let us see the apparent weight of a person in a moving lift. See, there are 4 cases, and in each and every cases it deals with the apparent weight and the actual weight. Let us see in the first case. Case 1, lift is moving upward with an acceleration a. Here the apparent weight r minus the actual weight is equal to F net weight, that is mass into acceleration. If you add this mass into acceleration with the actual weight, then r is equal to mg plus ma. That means the actual weight is m into g. You can take m as a common and add g plus a, which is very much greater than, that means the apparent weight is greater than the actual weight. And in the case 2, lift is moving downward with the acceleration a. Therefore, you have to subtract the actual weight from the apparent weight, that is F net is equal to ma, and substituting this we get r is equal to w minus ma, and the actual weight minus the mass into acceleration. The apparent weight is equal to mg minus ma, and as usual we used to take m as a common and g minus a. Here the apparent weight is less than the actual weight. Apparent weight is less than the actual weight. And in the case 3, lift is at rest, it's not moving, so the acceleration is 0, the a is 0, and r is equal to w, that means r is equal to mg. The apparent weight is equal to the actual weight, and we have the answer as apparent weight is equal to the actual weight, the result. Now case 4, lift is falling down freely, that means it accelerates in a heavy motion. Here the acceleration is equal to g, that means a is equal to g. G means acceleration due to gravity. R apparent weight is equal to mass into g minus g, so it becomes 0 into m. Then it is the apparent weight is equal to 0. Apparent weight is equal to 0 is the result. Let's see the weightlessness, and I will give you a new video of a lift. Weightlessness. If you are riding in a roller coaster in amusement park, or if you are moving in a lift, you will feel that you are falling freely without having any weight. This is due to a weightlessness. Sometimes you experience the same feeling while traveling in the roller coaster also. Okay. Here, when a person in a lift moves downward with the acceleration A equal to the acceleration due to gravity, then the A is equal to G. That means the acceleration of the person is equal to the acceleration due to gravity. This motion is called as free fall motion. The apparent weight of the person is equal to 0. That means in the last case we saw the apparent weight is equal to m into g minus g, which is equal to 0. At the same time, you feel the apparent weight is gained when you are having or when you are moving a upward and downward roller coaster or moving in a lift upward or downward. Weightlessness of astronauts. I have posted a picture which shows you a land of a moon and an astronaut for your vision. Some of us believe that the astronauts in space do not experience any gravitational force of the earth, so they float in the space. It is absolutely wrong. Astronauts are not falling but falling freely around the earth due to their huge orbital velocity. The space station and astronauts have equal acceleration. They are under free fall condition, which is r is equal to 0. Both the astronauts and the space station are in the state of weightlessness. That's the important thing. Now, application of laws of gravitation. As you know, the law of gravitation was delivered to us by our Sir Newton. The first application is dimension of the heavenly bodies can be measured using the gravitation law. Mass of the earth, radius of the earth, acceleration due to gravity, etc. can be calculated with a higher accuracy. Second application, helps in discovering new stars and planets. Third one of the irregularities in the motion of stars is called wobble, lead to the disturbance in the motion of the planet nearby. In this condition, the mass of the star can be calculated using the law of gravitation. Fourth one, helps to explain germination of root is due to the property of geotropism, which is the property of a root responding to the gravity. Last one, it helps to predict the path of the astronomical bodies. These are the 5 applications from our Newton law of gravitation. Students, remember, I have finished the lesson 1 using these 4 videos, and I want you all to listen the 4 videos consecutively, and I will not teach you the lessons again in the classes. So take care, read the lessons in your book and listen the lesson in this video, and if you have any doubt or any clarifications, feel free to ask me through WhatsApp number. and you will have a examination probably by next month. So take care. Thank you.